Oil is one of the world's most valuable resources. It is a vital energy source when turned into petroleum, which is utilized in automobiles, aircraft, heating, paving, and electricity. Petroleum is utilized in plastics, paints, chemicals, tape, and a variety of other products in addition to being a vital energy source. It's difficult to envision a future without oil. Oil prices have long been a focal point in discussions about the global economy, and price swings in the commodity attract a lot of attention. Today, we'll be exploring how petroleum affects the world economy and benefits to it. If you're looking for more information about economics and money, be sure to hit that subscribe button and ring that notification bell to be notified of further videos about what's going on in the world. During the pandemic in 2020, demand for oil plummeted, causing the price to go below zero for the first time in history, owing to a significant drop in economic activity, following a solid economic rebound following the lockdowns. Oil prices have surged substantially to almost $100 per barrel. Oil demand rises in tandem with the economy. Furthermore, escalating geopolitical tensions in the Middle East and between Russia and Ukraine are fueling supply concerns. This is fueling, pun intended, fears about the economy's recovery as well as growing prices. Before looking at the economic side of petroleum, it is best to know how it is produced first. Upstream, midstream, and downstream are the three segments of the oil business. Upstream involves finding oil and extracting it from the ground through exploration and drilling. Transportation and storage are considered midstream operations, whereas refining and marketing of the completed product are considered downstream activities. The upstream action is, of course, the most important, because everything else would not exist if oil hadn't been discovered and drilled. The United States, Saudi Arabia, and Russia are the world's top oil producers. In 2020, these three nations produced almost 40 million barrels of oil per day. This equates to 43% of total global production. Petroleum, being a resource sought after by the whole world, helps to make these three countries a leading power worldwide. Well, why are the prices for oil on a constant rise if the world is so full of it and there are many countries that have taken up the job to drill and process it? There are many answers to that question. The first is that the booming economic growth increases the demand for oil. When COVID-19 began 2 years ago, there was a drop in economic activity and oil consumption. Producers adjusted their output levels, but there is only so much that can be done without damaging reservoirs or capital. The amount of storage available is likewise restricted. Furthermore, there was apprehension about the severity of the economic downturn and how long it would endure. Oil prices plummeted to levels not seen in decades as a result of these interconnected circumstances. Oil prices even plummeted as low as -$40 for a brief period of time. This tumultuous time lasted several months. It was followed by an unexpected economic recovery, which boosted demand for oil and oil products. Oil demand is expected to be back to, or perhaps exceed, pre-pandemic levels at this stage. To put it another way, it's never been higher. Similarly, CO2 emissions are not a good thing. When the epidemic first broke out, there were high hopes for CO2 emission reductions. It did come to pass, and emissions fell by several percent in 2020. However, these benefits were short-lived, and current emissions are anticipated to be higher than pre-pandemic levels. Another answer to this question would be that the supplies of oil cannot meet the demand for oil, mainly because of investment cycles and capital allocations. Supply hasn't been able to keep up with rising demand. OPEC, the organization of the petroleum exporting countries, has been gradually increasing oil output, but it has little spare capacity and is likely wary of oversupplying the market again. Oil production, in addition to spare capacity, has extremely lengthy investment cycles. From the time the resources are proven, it might take up to a decade to achieve initial production. Although some unusual sources can offer production significantly faster, their scale is restricted. Furthermore, all manufacturers are cautious when it comes to allocating money. They first learned from an oversupplied market when oil prices plummeted to -$40. Second, and probably more crucially, the sector is under pressure not to explore new fields, to hold or reduce investment in sustaining and developing output, and to redirect cash to green ventures. Last but not least, a huge reason for the increasing oil prices is the problem that is going on around the world, mainly the conflicts between countries. What effect do rising oil prices have on inflation? What does this entail for the global economy? Oil accounts for 3% of global GDP. So, if 3% of the world GDP becomes twice as expensive tomorrow, this will certainly have an influence on inflation. Yet, oil prices will not be the most important influence in inflation in this environment, but they will still be significant. Why? Oil is in virtually everything, thus it does not have a volumetric influence. But it does affect the price of almost everything. An increase in the price of oil will be felt not only at the petrol station, but in almost all of the goods and services we consume. Because oil is a feedstock, an energy source, and a mode of transportation for a variety of goods, the worldwide oil and gas exploration and production business account for a significant share of the global economy, and its expansion is likely to continue in the future. OPEC crude oil output is expected to average $32.11 million in 2021 and $34.15 million in 2022. Recent demand for oil and gas output has been driven by emerging economies. This is especially true in the BRIC countries, Brazil, Russia, India, and China, which have the world's largest populations. On the strength of this demand, the E&P business appears to have a bright future. Furthermore, there are numerous oil deposits all over the world, some of which are difficult to access. These deposits will become more accessible as technology advances, as was the case with shale fracturing in the United States, because oil and gas exploration ventures rely mainly on capital equipment rather than human labor. Employment is unlikely to grow at the same rate as total market capitalization. If you enjoyed the video and learned something from it, please consider liking and subscribing. It would mean a lot to keep these informative videos coming your way. And if you want to be notified when a new video drops, be sure to ring that bell.